Welcome to Roll the Dice, a GM's guide to better role playing. I'm Dan.
And I am Lee.
And today's question is how do you develop the story for the game you're going to run?
Yeah, how do you start your RPG session? How
Yes.
do you start all this? Like you have an idea for a story, you want to run your own homebrew game. Where do you begin? And I think that's one main focus of this podcast is how to tell a good story, how to get your characters, get your friends involved into that story as well. It's nothing against hack and slash games or silly, just whatever fun, annoying, immature humor. You know what I'm trying to say. But that's the idea of this podcast. Maybe some of those tools we spew at you might help you out in those other games. I guess that's the focus of this podcast.
So I had a question here. I'm losing it now. Are we focusing on starting a game completely?
Yes.
Or, okay, so you just get friends together and they're like, hey, let's play a game.
Yep.
But let's play a game Friday and we have nothing ready for it. So how do you develop it? Right?
That is absolutely right. Yeah. So step one, talk to your players, figure out, okay, we were going to play this. We're going to play this game. Oh, maybe someone says, I really want to play Star Wars. And then other people are like, well, I want to play Battle Lords. Then you figure out, okay, well, then the person in charge might say, well, the person that usually runs the games maybe in your group will say, well, I have an idea for Deadlands, but I want your characters to be really involved in the game. And so that's the beginning of it.
I'm going to assume that it's not that hard for people to pick a game.
No. Normally it's basically...
It can be sometimes.
But. That's true. That's the thing, though. Every group is different, every group of friends. And normally you have that friend who's always a person in charge, always not in charge, but always a person running the games. And usually they say, I want to run this game. Then everyone says, awesome, I'm going to play. Because... That's always hard.
It's hard to find people running games.
Yep, exactly. So if someone says, I'm running a game, you want to jump on in there. Yeah, let's play some D&D. All right, great. Let's do this.
So you get the game, and now you have to figure out what kind of game, right? So you're asking your characters, do you outright ask them, is this going to be a serious game?
Yeah. Sometimes I've gotten more in the habit of what kind of game do you want to play? Are we going to be, really serious, completely lighthearted? But I tend to do a combination of both. Like I want you to get into your character, but if they're silly, great. No worries. We'll try to fit in your character to my story.
There's a few times I ran a game, and I only ran a game a couple times, but usually I never ask that question. I'm just like, we're going to play this game, and I assume everyone knows what kind of game it's going to be.
Yep.
And I didn't understand that. Well, especially when I first started, that it could go in so many different ways.
Yep.
If you don't have an understanding if it's going to be a zany game, serious game, and some games are built that way. Some role playing like Feng Shui, or
yeah, exactly.
Sometimes they're built to be really zany. Kobolds Ate My Baby.
That's a great game.
So you could play Kobolds Ate My Baby and play it seriously, and that might be really creepy and fun, but I always assumed that when you picked a game, people just knew what kind of game it was.
The tone you're going for, Unknown Armies. That game isn't really wacky and fun. That's kind of more serious, creepy, more adult, I guess, vibe. I started playing with another group of people that I met at a game store, and we had played sanctioned D&D, like the D&D Adventurers Guild, where you really couldn't sway too far from the rules. Because it made sense. You have to follow all the rules otherwise, because you have a little log sheet and you can take that character and go to another town, another game store and play your character there because everything's written down. And while that's fun, it really hampers creativity because you can't say, I take my whip out and I want to whip that ogre in the eyeball. And after I hit his eyeball or it flies out, I want to swallow it. Stuff like that. You can't get too creative and silly with it.
How important are the rules going to be to the campaign, or if there's going to be kind of more storytelling, and if your character does well, you might just let things fudge?
If you're asking the players, well, also you tell them, I'm going to run the game like this. If we as long as we're having fun, we don't know all the exact rules. I don't remember all of them. And I say, hey, let's do this. Roll a 20-sider instead of figuring out all the pluses and negatives, and you get odds or evens. That's fine. Because the main point is just keep having fun with your friends and don't worry about the rules too much. The rules are just the outline for it.
I had so much more fun when games don't go rule crazy.
Yeah.
And they concentrate more on the story, and it seems to be better for the person experiencing the game when their character can do extraordinary things or just has so much fun and has a story they can remember as opposed to a role that they, for me anyway. I know some people are like, I remember when I rolled that
and that's
that critical hit.
A critical, I rolled that critical hit right in the chance to kill the thing, and it saved everyone. Yep. Yeah. And that's where that's the really hard part of GMing, is striking the balance between both of them. When do you fudge your rolls behind the Dungeon Master screen to keep the story fun, or how do you make it challenging for the players? And so when they beat that really hard challenge that you set up for them, they feel like they accomplished something. So it's that weird balance that you have to get going, and hopefully we can help you out with that.
So we got the rules, we got the game. Mm-hmm. Character creation. How do you help your players create a team that's going to work together? Because I mean, you can have them create the characters they want to create, but as a GM, you're going to have to bring them together somehow.
Yep, and that's another really challenging thing, and that's something that I've really enjoyed doing. Is you have your friends make your characters. You kind of give them a guideline, maybe depending on the world, or you're like, okay, we're playing Star Wars. I can't have you be a stormtrooper. Or we talk about it. We figure out, okay, they were once a stormtrooper and now they've abandoned it for whatever reason. So you have to try to, figure it out with what your player wants to do with their character. So after you get their characters together, we have to, in the story, get your group together. Now, there's lots of different ways of doing it. The really easiest way is, of course, like in Dungeons and Dragons, you all go to a tavern. You want to talk to the prince, and he has a mission for you. You don't know each other yet, but you're on this mission just to get money. And that's a really easy way, and definitely don't want to knock that, because sometimes you just want to get into the actual story.
Yeah, sometimes I think it's easier just to bring the characters together in the first episode, especially if you're limited on time, because trying to get people to cross paths and interact in order to bring them all together for the beginning of the game can be very difficult.
It's really hard.
Just coming up with a simple story about why you all know each other and why you're in the same room or why you're somewhere shortens that intro and just gets right into the game quicker.
Yeah, especially if you're a first-time GMer, have them already as a group together. But as you get more experience, and it's really rewarding in my opinion, is getting them like as individuals playing their character and having motivation, like, why are we going on this quest? Why does my character care about being with this other person? And that's a really hard thing for a GM to do. Afterwards, it has really good motivation. Why are we stuck together as a group of people in this weird adventure instead of just in it for the money?
It does open up a lot of good role-playing opportunities when you have a reason they got together that wasn't just I'm in a room. When the GM brings your characters together in a specific way, it can open up a lot of good storytelling, can open up a lot of good role-playing later on in the game. And that is something I think that is very difficult. And it's easier for experienced GMs, even though it's still hard for them sometimes to do, especially if people are resistant to it.
Yeah, and that's why you have to know your players. Like some people, they're more quiet, but yet they want to play a very talkative, say, bard character. Well, you have to figure out how to get them involved without just using dice rolls and so on. So there's lots of different things. Well, we will probably talk about that in different episodes. But the main idea is, how do you start your session? So first, talk to your players, what type of game we're going to play, figure out what kind of types of characters they're going to be playing. And the next thing after that is take notes about their character, like their background, what they want, what their characters actually want, and incorporate that into your story. I guess generically, like maybe, okay, so you want to run a game and you have a story idea already in your brain, and we'll keep it simple. Something like you come into, I'll just use D&D fantasy because that's what most people know, is the king has gone mad and has killed all the wizards in the countryside, and no one really knows why, and now the king has locked himself into his room. The prince comes to ask for help. So that's the main story idea.
Okay, so that's the story idea you come up with as a GM before you start playing, right?
Yep. And then I talk to my players. What kind of characters are you going to be making? So Dan, what kind of character are you going to make in this D&D world?
Oh, obviously I am a fighter.
Okay, you're a fighter. And then we try to figure out, like, what's your background? Maybe something like your father worked as a guard for the king.
I'm trying to get my knighthood from the king.
There you go. So now I take bits from your character background and try to blend that into the story. So that way it's more enjoyable, because other than that, you just have a character that your character doesn't matter then. There's no reason for your character isn't acknowledged in the story is what I mean. Like, anyone else could be doing this adventure. Why am I here? Why am I special? I guess I'm not. So that's why I find really fun and rewarding for people to do that.
If someone's just being dragged along on the adventure, it doesn't always work well for them. They don't always enjoy themselves. If their character needs to be invested, I think, in the game in order for them to be invested as well.
Definitely. Yep. Then the next thing I do is I actually write the ending.
For that episode or for the entire campaign?
For the entire campaign, I go right to the ending. And it all depends on how big of a campaign you want to have. You can do like maybe 5 sessions and then you have a campaign ending. Like it's like a simple story. Basically, go and find the cure for the king's madness. Or you do something bigger, like maybe an outside force is driving the king mad. It's something more sinister or evil that you can't see. So now you're building this bigger, much bigger story that could take weeks, maybe months, maybe years to do. But you still have to write the ending to that.
How much do you plan in between there then? If you got the characters getting together to try to solve it, and
sure,
then you got the ending there. You know, I know obviously it's probably depending on how long of a campaign you want to run. Mm-hmm. How much of the midpoints do you plot out before you get started?
I found out that playing once a week, which I've been doing for the last 2 years now with a group, writing just for the week ahead is perfect. What's cool is people are going to do something completely different than what you have written out. And that's great because what I really like is the players are helping me tell the story. I have the ending figured out, so I know how to what I have to do to get them to that point. The in-between story can shift and change. So I'm not actually writing that much. It's kind of weird, but that's just what I found works for me.
Yeah, I know most GMs that I've talked to will try to let the characters do what they want to do and adjust the campaign to follow around what they do. So, I mean, they don't want to limit what their characters are doing because it's their characters. As long as they're playing it correctly, it works out.
Well, the reason why I write the ending first is not only do I have it in my mind, like this is the goal, but I can also figure out then who the main antagonist is. Figure out what their motives are. Why are they doing this? So let's just use that example for the Mad King. Why is this? Who's the bad guy in this? So I'll just say used to be the priestess who was actually in love with the king, but the king had a wife, so she got mad and she basically went and cursed the king because she loves him so much, and she just went mad with power. Maybe she found an evil thing, whatever. But you have to figure out all these different motivations for why the antagonist is doing this. What's the point of the story? So once now you have your main bad guy, I have an idea how she would act. Maybe she's unstable. I wouldn't give her any power sets yet at all. Just a general idea of what kind of person the antagonist is first. And then you could add that stuff later.
But you're not really expecting them to meet up with her right away. So, I mean, there's some things that you can fudge as far as not explaining completely.
Yeah.
The main issue is you're wanting to do, especially in the first campaign, is your characters are together. Let's do something really, really small to solidify your interactions with each other. And
that's really cool. Yep.
What do you think is a good length for a first? I guess it could be any length, really. I guess, but what do you think is a good length or a good plan for the first meeting?
Oh, like how long you should play?
Yeah. Like what on average is something that you found?
I'd say
the first episode?
2 to 3 hours a session. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the first one, because the idea is you're getting together, you're hanging out with your friends or new people, and you just want to have a good time too. So it's not just, all right, we're sitting down, everyone shut up, we're going to role play. So I'd say 2 hours is fine.
That's how I role play.
Shut up!
I'm trying to roll my dice.
Yeah, it's difficult because then you want to have people have fun, but you also want to stay on track to get the story, and you're having fun from that too. So it's again, interesting balance.
So you finished developing the ending of the game. And you got an antagonist now.
Yep.
And so you got the characters ready. You got how they're going to interact with each other. Are you ready to play?
Yeah, let's do this. No, because now you write. Okay, so I got all this information, and now you write. Yes, the beginning. If you're starting at the very beginning, just say that your group is together and not worry about it. So then you have to put your characters into their first mission. And you gave a good example. Start small, which is perfect, because you want to start with a small little adventure, something that gets the group together and how their character dynamics will work with each other, and so on.
Yeah, because I think once you, as a GM, you need to understand how they're going to interact with each other a bit, so you can play on that or against that later on.
Yep, because you don't want to just delve right into the main meat of the story, because you want to see how your players react. So you single out a character, a person like Dan. I'm going to use Dan as an example.
And I'm saying my name with such disdain.
Why do I do that? Because
Dan.
You are such an extremely creative person and role player that I had to figure out how to thwart you or challenge you at all times, because like, I know he's going to do something I didn't think of, and then he does it, and it's son of a bitch. He did it, of course. And then if you start
and Jim both hate me, apparently.
Well, that's people come with reputation.
Like my reputation is
you're gonna come up
does the wrong things.
You're gonna come up with something that we didn't think of and beat us somehow. Where Eric, on the other hand, he's just gonna come right at you. He's gonna roll awesome with his dice. He's gonna roll massive damage, and you're done. That's his skill, is rolling awesome with his dice.
And he does roll massive damage
all the time. And he's straightforward, like, all right, I mean, I decapitate your main bad guy. Well, you rolled. Yep, you did.
He's shielded. He has bunches of armor. You have to get incredibly high to hit him. Oh, you did.
Yep.
All right.
So, and you're right. Just you want to see what your players, how they handle situational things and combat. So start small. And
how do you prep your players? I always think when you're getting ready to roleplay, people are just interested and ready to get in there, but there's got to be something with getting your players to want to play their characters sometimes.
Sometimes that's true. There are a couple players that they want to be with people, they want to hang out. Maybe they're not excited yet, but how do you get people excited about their characters is really the best way, and is getting them into the story and having reasons why their character is important. Make them feel important is the best thing. They don't have to be the main character of the story, but you could. That's really difficult to do, though, because then you're shying away from other people.
But I have seen GMs take a character, and even though if the character hasn't done much for a long time, the GM puts them in a place of putting the other characters and putting the storyline, I don't know what you call it, on the edge or in the
spotlight.
Gives them in the spotlight. Gives them the MacGuffin sometimes, or gives them the power to affect the timeline, and suddenly they're back in and interested because they have the choice and they're making a change in the story.
Yep. So definitely always acknowledge your characters. That's such a big thing to do, and we'll definitely talk about more further episodes on how to really do that. So you're brand new at this game. You're just going to run 5 sessions. You have your characters. You have your ending. Keep it simple is my best advice, because you want to build upon that experience. Like anything, you have to get that is really all this is really practice. And if you talk to your friends, your players, like they'll understand. Okay, you're new at this. You might not know every single rule in the book. That's fine. The whole point is to hang out and have fun. But another really good tool that I use to have fun, and you're brand new at this, is to steal. So I guess it can mean a couple different things, but steal stuff from books or movies or TV shows, plot ideas.
I see a lot of GMs steal from movies, especially when a new movie comes out.
Yep.
And hey, that's a neat idea. Let's
do that
in our campaign.
There's nothing wrong with that, because it's fun. And again, that's the whole point of doing this. Another good tool is to get a small module or adventure, reading it out, but then tweaking some things, like maybe have the storyline do this, or use that module if your character, a person's character background, you can change it and add it here and do it that way. So that could help you out too.
I haven't used modules very much. They seem to be a lot of fun, and people enjoy them. And there's more of them coming out now. More games are having them. More people are writing them. And there's a few games that are open sourced to the public, and people create a lot of these modules and put them online.
Yep.
So if you're looking for something to start, that might be a way to go, especially if you're new, is just buying a module or finding a module online and then just starting there.
Yep. There's nothing wrong with that. And definitely for beginners, do that. Even just steal, like you have this really long, year-long campaign you have planned. And man, for whatever reason you didn't plan, look at the back of the book. There might be a little mini adventure you could run and throw inside the mix in the campaign. And that really helps out. I found that really works really well. But when you get to be a master, then you come up with your own storyline that will last for years, and your characters will grow and change and develop, and then
And then you'll be happy to kill them off.
And then when your GM finally kills them. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, because I find that really rewarding, and I've noticed when we've done that is you just hanging out with a group of friends, doing whatever, having a drink, and you talk about your characters. Remember when we did this? Or I can't wait for my character to do that. That's always my goal is I want you to love your character no matter what you've made. That's always a goal of mine. I guess that's
I think that's important. I mean, if a player's not liking their character, there should be some way of changing it. Sometimes you just kill them off and say, okay, let's change your character. Let's kill them.
Yeah, and that's another thing. As a player, sometimes you have to figure out, what do I like to play? Do I like to play the sneaky rogue that's mysterious and quiet, or am I the loudmouth fighter that just runs on in there and is bombastic? You have to find out what type of person you are and what characters you kind of like to play.
Are you ever? I guess I'm bringing it back into the question again. Do you ever limit a first-time player as to what kind of character they can play? Because
yes.
As a player, I'd like to play games, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I want to limit myself in which character.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, there's some characters that you have to really understand the background of the game. I don't necessarily want to limit if I wanted to play that character all the time.
Yeah, I have limited not much. Usually, I compromise with the person. But this one person really, really wanted to play a blood magic priest, an Aztec priest. And this was in Deadlands in the Weird West. So it's 1878, and I had this whole campaign planned out in Denver. This person really wanted to play this kidnapped Aztec priest that cuts himself and uses his blood for his magic. And he was going to be in a circus, but then he breaks out. And and the tone I had everyone else's characters, and then he wanted to do this, and I'm sorry, I can't. It's too weird.
It's just too weird to interact, or
it's
put
too weird. Like, exactly. Basically, I said your character's going to die immediately because they're going to kill you. As soon as you escape from your prison, your circus, whatever, they're going to hunt you down and kill you. And if they don't, like, you're role playing on your own. Like, trying to get that type of a character into a group that makes sense with already crazy things happening is really hard. And I really honestly didn't feel like going through all that work. So I asked him if he could tweak it or just make a new character.
Well, that goes into talking to the players and figuring out which characters will jive with each other and which ones will keep them together the easiest or the best way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Was that me? That sounds like my character.
That was Zilmer.
Oh, okay.
You played a Russian with Becca. Remember, you were your husband and wife.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that one.
And you were entertainers. Yeah.
And wasn't Bloodbath?
Oh, Bloodbath was great. You're talking about a Hell on Earth character,
yes.
BB.
BB was a lot of fun.
And I like that you never told me until way later, like through the campaign, what BB stood for. You kept that a secret for yourself, and then you revealed it when you got to know everyone in the character. You said, "Oh,
I honestly thought I told you."
No.
I thought I did.
Oh no, I like that it was revealed later on.
That's one of the things I like. When I first created him, he wasn't fully developed, and as we played the game, he developed further.
Oh, you realized? Okay, he's a crazy psycher.
So I mean, as you develop, sometimes you create a character in the beginning of the game, and it kind of takes a different slight turn. The more you play with it, the more it develops. You can create them after a few episodes or whatever, a few game sessions.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that the character has to be set in stone on the first episode.
Not at all. That just goes right back to what I said. Start slow in your adventure and figure things out. And that's what the players are doing too, as you're running the game.
That sounds like a perfect place to end on.
That is a perfect place to end on.
Well, you have the Facebook thing, so I'll let you say the Facebook thing.
I get to say the Facebook things? I feel like I talk too much. Man, I ramble.
Well, I don't. I'm asking you questions.
Sweet.
Right? That's how it works.
And the question is, how do you get a hold of us on Facebook?
How do we get a hold of you?
At Roll of the Dice Podcast on Facebook and Gmail. Ask us questions, how to help you out, and we will try our best to answer them. We'll do another episode, and we'll figure out their titles of those episodes as we go, because we're just winging it, man.
Yep. Check out our Facebook page. We'll post the episode question before we start the episode.
Oh, we are?
Will we?
Awesome. Sure, why not? Let's go for it. Nope, it's set in stone now.
It's set in stone.
You said it.
It's on my character sheet right there.
So, that's right there. It's written down. It's in pen.
It's a pen. I can't
erase it. I can't erase it. Thanks for coming by. Bye.
Bye.
Dan, say goodbye like you mean it.
Goodbye. I, loved you guys. Don't leave us. Us. Us.